So let's look at number 4. So we just have to use all the information that we've already found and graph them. What's the first thing we need to graph? Zero, 3, the vertex. So we stay on 0 and go up 3. What can we graph next? Axis of symmetry. So we just put our dotted line right through our point. And what do we need to do next? Plug in what? Plug in what for x? So if we plugged in 0 for x, we would get 3, which is already a point that we have. But we want to find another point for our graph. So what can we plug in for x? 1. We want to plug in something as close to the axis of symmetry as possible. We could plug in 3, that would work, it would just give us a really big number. But we want to plug in something as close as possible. So let's plug in 1. So we're plugging in 1 for our x here. So then we have 1 squared plus 3. What's 1 squared? 1. And what's 1 plus 3? 4. So when we plug in 1, we got 4. So our next point, we go to the right 1 and up 4. Put our point there. Do we have another point? If we have a point on the right side, where is our next point going to be? Negative 1, 4. On the left side. The same point, but on the left side. So then we just draw our parabola with our 3 points, and we're done. Good job. So just remember, you always need 3 points for your graph. On the quiz, if you guys don't have 3 points, you'll get it wrong. You need the 3 points. So 1's going to be your vertex. So this one is 1 point. You plug in to find your second point, and then the same thing on the other side is your third point. The third point is because it's symmetrical. All right, so let's graph number 5. What are we going to put on our graph first? The vertex. So here we have fractions, negative 1/4, and negative 1/4. So we're going to go to the left 1/4 and down 1/4. About there. All right, what's next? How do we find our second point? Plug in what? We just plotted our vertex. This was our first point. Oh, our axis of symmetry. Almost forgot about that. So we're going to put our dotted line through our point. So there's our axis of symmetry. What is next? We have 1 point. How many points total do we need? 3. So how do we find our next point? What are we going to plug in? Our vertex is at negative 1/4, negative 1/4. We want to try to plug in whole numbers just to make the math easier for us. Our goal is to plug in what's the easiest number. You can plug in anything you want, but we want to plug in what's easiest. If we have negative 1/3, we'd be dealing with fractions and we don't really want to. Let's plug in 0. 0 is close to our axis of symmetry and it's a whole number. Good to work with. So we're plugging in 0. So we have 4 times 0 squared plus 2 times 0. So what is 0 squared? 0. And what's 4 times 0? 0. And what's 2 times 0? And what's 0 plus 0? 0. So when we plugged in 0, we got 0. So we have a point at 0, 0. Now where's our third point going to be? The same thing on the other side. So if we're 1/4 of a space away on the left side, we need to be 1/4 of a space away on the right side. So then we have our 3 points and we just draw our parabola. Any questions on this one? All right, let's look at number 6. What do we put on our graph first? The vertex. So we stay at 0, go down 6. So there's our point. What do we do next? Axis of symmetry, so we put a dotted line right through the middle. What do we do next? Plug in what? Question 6. So we want to plug in something as close to the axis of symmetry as possible. If the axis of symmetry is 0, what's close to it? -1, sure. So we're plugging in -1. So we have x squared, which x is -1. So -1 squared minus 6. What is -1 times -1? 1. And what's 1 minus 6? -5. So when we plug in -1, we get -5. So let's graph that point. We go to the left 1, down 5. What is our third point going to be? Same thing on the opposite side. Once we have our 3 points, we just draw our parabola. All right, number 7.
Wait, can you go back?
Yes. What's the first thing we should put on our graph for number 7? The vertex. So we go to the left 2 and up 6. What's next? Axis of symmetry. Put our dotted line right through our vertex. What's next? Plug it in. What are we going to plug in? Sure, let's plug in -3. So since our vertex is at -2, we want to plug in something close. We can plug in -3, we can plug in -1, we can plug in 0, since all of those are close and easy to work with. So we have -3 squared minus 4 times -3 plus 2. So let's work this out. What is -3 squared? -3 times -3. 9. But we have that negative out front, so it's -9. What's -4 times -3? 12. And then plus 2. So -9 plus 12 plus 2. It's -9 plus 12 plus 2. 5. Good job. So we plugged in -3 and we got 5. So let's go to our graph and plot this point. We're going to go to the left 3 and up 5. So we have 2 points. What's our third point? Same thing on the other side. And we just draw a parabola. Good job, guys. All right. Let's look at number 8. What's the first thing we need to put on our graph for number 8? The vertex. So we go to the right 3 and down 5. Put our point there. Okay, what's next? Axis symmetry. Put our dotted line right through it. What's next? Plug it in. What are we going to plug in? Sure, let's plug in 2. So 2 squared minus 6 times 2 plus 4. So 4 minus, what's 6 times 2? 12 plus 4. What's 4 minus 12? Negative 8. And what's negative 8 plus 4? Negative 4. So we plugged in 2 and got negative 4. So we go to the right 2 and down 4. And then what's our third point going to be? Same thing on the opposite side. Then we just connect our 3 points with our parabola. Yeah, we can do 9, but 9 just had fractions, so we didn't have time for it on Friday. Do you guys want to do 9, or? Yeah, but that one was number 8. What did you guys get for the vertex on 9? We can do it together. So let's find the axis of symmetry first. So x is equal to negative b over 2a. What's our a? 6. And what's our b? 2. So then we have negative 2 over 2 times 6. So this would be negative 1 over 6. So x is equal to negative 1 over 6. What's our first number in our vertex? We got negative 1 over 6 for our axis of symmetry. What comes first in our vertex? Negative 1 over 6. And now we have to plug it in to find the next number. So we have 6 times negative 1 over 6 squared plus 2 times negative 1 over 6 minus 3. So what is negative 1 over 6 squared? What's negative 1 over 6 times negative 1 over 6? One over 36. And then we're multiplying this times 6. So this would be 6 over 36. What does 6 over 36 simplify to? 1/6. So we got 1/6 here. And then next, we're just multiplying the tops together and the bottoms together. So this would be negative 2 over 6 minus 3. If we want to give everything the same denominator to combine all of our fractions together, what do we do to this 3? Put it over 1, but we need it to have a 6 on the bottom, so what do we do next? Multiply the top and the bottom by 6. So what's 3 times 6? 18 over 6. So now that everything has the same denominator, we keep the denominator the same and just combine everything on top. So what's 1 minus 2? Negative 1. And then what's negative 1 minus 18? Negative 19. So we get negative 19 over 6. This is going to be fun to graph. Does our graph open up or down, Gilbert?
Down.
Is our A positive?
No, it's negative.
A is positive, so it opens up. So it's a smiley face. So let's graph it.
Is that right? Or is it
I think you said down. I don't know. But it's positive, so it goes up. Okay. So let's graph our vertex. We have negative 1 over 6 and negative 19 over 6. Negative 19 over 6 is about 3. So we're going to go to the left 1/6 and down 3-ish. So we have our vertex on our graph. What comes next? Gilbert, what comes next? We have our vertex. What do we put next? Axis of symmetry goes right through it. How do we find our next point? So we want to plug in something as close to the axis of symmetry as possible. Our axis of symmetry is negative 1/6. What's a whole number that's close to it? Negative 1. We can plug in negative 1 or 0, whatever is closest to it. That's a whole number. We want it to be a whole number so the math's a little bit easier. So we said negative 1. So we have 6 times negative 1 squared plus 2 times negative 1 minus 3. What's negative 1 squared? 1, and 1 times 6. What's 2 times negative 1? Negative 2. So what is 6 minus 2 minus 3? 1. So our point is negative 1, 1. So we're going to go to the left 1 and down 1. So if we have a point on the left side, we need the same thing on the right side. Here we are like 5, 6 spaces away. So we just need that same distance on the other side. So and then once we have our 3 points, we connect our dots. Alright, so let's take a look at number 1. So the first 4 questions are in vertex form. The second 4 are standard form. So the first 4, 1 through 4, are going to be from sections 4.1. The other 4 through 8 are going to be from 4.2. So remember, when it's in vertex form, we can easily identify the vertex by h and k. So I'm just going to rewrite our vertex form up at the top. We have a times x minus h squared plus k. So what is our vertex? If you have it open on your iPad, it's not that far away, right? Okay. For number 1, what's our vertex? What's our h? Negative 2, but what do we have to do to the h? Change the sign. So always flip the sign of the h, and then what's our k? 4. So our vertex is 2, 4. What's our axis of symmetry? x equals 2. Always the same as the first number in the vertex. So let's plot our vertex. We go to the right 2, up 4. Let's plot our axis of symmetry right through it. What's our domain? All real numbers. And what is our A positive or negative? It's positive because it's just a 1. We don't have any reflections going on. So if it's positive, do we open up or open down? Positive is going to be a smiley face, so it opens up. So do we have a max or min if we open up? Is our vertex at the max or min? Min. So we can cross out maximum. What is our minimum? What number does the minimum come from? 4. Minimum's always the other number in your vertex. So you always use the first number twice and the second number twice. And then, well, you're going to use it again for the range. If we open up, what's our range going to be? If we open up, we start with the number. So what number do we start with? 4. And then we go to what? And beyond. See what I did there? Said to infinity. All right, now we need to finish graphing this. How do we find another point in our graph? What are we going to plug in for x? 1. We want to plug in something close to our axis of symmetry. Our axis of symmetry is 2, so let's plug in 1. So we have 1 minus 2 squared plus 4. What's 1 minus 2? Negative 1 squared. What's negative 1 squared? And what's 1 plus 4? 5. So we plugged in 1 and got 5. So we go to the right 1 and up 5. So there's 1 point on our graph. Do we have another point? Reflected on the other side. So the same point on the other side. Once we have our 3 points, we just draw our parabola. So our transformations, we got to look at our problem. What does the minus 2 tell us? Minus 2 on the inside. So if our h is negative, to the right. Awesome. So we go to the right, how many? 2. It's always going to be positive. So we go to the right 2. And then what does the plus 4 tell us? Perfect. So when it's a positive k, we go up 4. So on your quiz, you're going to have questions, like one question will just be, what's the vertex? Another question will be, what's the axis of symmetry? Another one will be, identify the transformations. So this is like a lot of questions in one. So I just made the review where you have to find everything, that way you know how to do it all. Here for the identify transformations, right 2 and up 4. So you could either write it where it's happening or write it over here. So this would be right 2 and up 4. So numbers 5 through 8 are from 4.2. And these are in standard form. So in standard form, we always want to start with the axis of symmetry. What's our formula for axis of symmetry? Perfect. Negative b over 2a. So let's go back to our graph. What's our a and what's our b? What's our a? 2. And what's our b? 4. Remember, b is always what's in front of the x. So let's plug it in. That's not us, right? Oh, we have 10 minutes left. So, negative 4 over 2 times 2. So negative 4 on top. What's 2 times 2? How can we simplify this? What's negative 4 over 4? Negative 1. So our axis of symmetry is x is equal to negative 1. What's the first number in our vertex? What's the first number in our vertex? Negative 1. Always the same as our axis of symmetry. And then how do we find the second number in our vertex? Plug it in. So we go back to our equation. Let's plug in negative 1. So we have 2 times negative 1 squared plus 4 times negative 1 minus 3. What's negative 1 squared? 1. And what's 2 times 1? 2. What is 4 times negative 1? Negative 4 and negative 3. So our questions 1 through 4 were in vertex form. In vertex form, it gives you like the parentheses and you can see your h and k, and that's when you use the h and k. When it's in standard form, so if it said like when it has all 3 numbers like this, it's standard form. All right, so we have 2 minus 4 minus 3. What's 2 minus 4? Negative 2. And what's negative 2 minus 3? Negative 5. So we plugged in negative 1 and got negative 5. But we're still working on our vertex. So our vertex is negative 1, negative 5. So we are going to go to the left 1 and down 5. Put our point there. And our axis of symmetry goes right through it. So remember, to determine if it opens up or opens down, we have to look at our A. Is our A positive or negative? Positive. So do we open up or open down? Open up. It's a smiley face. So if we open up, is our vertex at the maximum or minimum? Minimum. And what's the value of our minimum? Negative 5. It's always the second number in your vertex. What's our domain? All real numbers. And then our range we said opens up. So if it opens up, we start with the number. What number do we start with? Negative 5, and go to infinity and beyond. All right, so we have 1 point on our graph. Last thing we need is our 2 other points. How do we find one of them? How do we find a point on our graph? What do we want to plug in? 0. 0 is close to negative 1, so let's plug in 0. We have 0 squared plus 4 times 0 minus 3. What's 0 squared? 0. What's 4 times 0? 0. What's 0 plus 0 minus 3? Negative 3. So we plugged in 0 and got -3. So let's go to our graph, stay on 0, go down 3, put our point there. Where's our next point? So we got 2 points, we need one more. The same thing on the opposite side. Then once we have our points, we just draw our parabola. Alright, good work, guys. Any questions on this one? So again, when it's in vertex form and standard form, you got to do it a little bit differently. Standard form, you start with your axis of symmetry, which is -b/2a. Vertex form, which are questions 1 through 4, you start with the vertex, which is h, k. So the second 4 are standard, the first 4 are vertex.